All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Josh Michaelis on The Truth on the Houndsmen XP Podcast Network, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by my good friend and PKC World Champion, Mr. Joe Manning. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm wonderful. You can say that again if you'd like. Kind of has a nice ring to it.
I tell you what, I've been calling you champ when we talk on the phone now.
That's right.
You ain't stopping me either.
No, bring it on, bring it on.
Joe, I want to congratulate you first on all your guys' success. You and Cole, you're friends of mine. I've always been rooting for you, and you know you guys got some special dogs right now. You're on a hot streak, not just from the World Hunt, but since the World Hunt, and even before that. So, congratulations with that. But we're gonna start off. I want to start off with you like I do all my guests. Most people don't know how guys like me and you and some of these others got their start in this world, in this coon hunting world, I should say. So, why don't you give it to me? Sure.
Well, my dad was always a very avid hunter. Growing up, we had cow dogs, coon dogs, squirrel dogs, hog dogs. So I guess probably about the time that I was 5, 6, 7 years old, started taking me coon hunting, and man, it just really grew into an obsession, especially later in life. We had English dogs when I was a kid growing up, and of course, single registered them. They were just grade dogs, but we kind of swapped over to these walkers around the mid '80s, and had some dogs out of Tennessee lead, and got things going. We hunted on mules a lot as I got up in age. I guess probably around 10 whenever we started getting those mules. And
was that a big deal? Because for folks that don't know, you were in East Texas.
That's right.
And was that a big deal amongst a lot of the houndsmen?
Yeah. It was, so all of our big hunting buddies, they had 4 or 5 mules, and we did, and we all kind of shared one another's places. We'd go to the Madisonville area a lot because I grew up just 20 miles from there, and hunted with some Mike McCowan, of course, Bo Kelly, those guys. And man, at any point in time in that early 80s to mid 80s, and we had 4 or 5 young dogs that were a year old that were as good a coon dogs as you wanted to turn loose. It's just because we put so many miles on them. Traveling on a mule, you can absolutely put the time in on a hound.
I know it was a big deal at home for a while, too. About that same time, early 80s to late 80s. Yes. And some of them guys carried that on up until I started hunting. Kelly Coyne, a good friend of mine, he always hunted off mules up until just a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And you could tell, and they just hunted during coon season. They didn't hunt much in the summer or the spring or anything like that. But you could tell when they had been hunting them dogs off mules and how hard and how fast and lean and trim. And them dogs went through a lot of miles.
No doubt. They really, really did. And I get this question a lot. People ask me if I really think that the dogs are better now than they were then. And, man, my answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, we've got, they were a different style of dog. We had more trailing type dogs back then, but still treat a lot of coons. I mentioned Bo Kelly there a while ago. He was a roofer by trade. During the wintertime, he quit roofing. All he did was hide hunt. Yeah. And there were nights that, man, some of those big river bottoms over there, we killed 20, 25, 27 coons. Yeah.
I know that's one of my favorite areas in this whole world.
Yes.
I don't know how you guys do it in the summer.
The snakes, man, I'll tell you, it's tough for me.
But so you're young, you're hunting off mules, you guys got a lot of dogs. You talked about style of dogs. What differences are you seeing in them dogs that you're trained? You're trained 20, 25 coons back then.
Yes. And
so these are good coon dogs.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned that they were a different style of dogs. What differences are you seeing?
Back then we allowed a dog to work up a bad feeding track. We allowed them to take a little bit more time on some of those, and hunting multiple dogs at one time, it was okay for us to do that. We'd leave those on while something else was treed. But nowadays, the style of dog that we're looking for to win in these hunts, we don't allow that. We have one push around and beat around on the track a little bit. We go in there and we push them out and try to get them to tree our type of coon.
Right. And you mentioned that, you'd leave a dog over here trailing and you'd go to some dog's treat or something like that. And independence is a big deal now, and
Absolutely.
it has been for, I'd say, a decade plus,
Yes.
It started getting big and it's just gotten bigger. Back then, I know we didn't have super independent dogs, and a lot of people didn't. They wanted them together. Were your dogs? Because it wasn't very often when I was hunting in the mid '80s, late '80s when I was young that we had dogs that were over here split tree. Split tree was a big deal.
It was. Had to get in the calling contest back then.
Yeah.
So, yes, our dogs were pretty independent even then.
Right.
It was just the style of dog that my dad wanted to hunt. And I'll tell you what really got us swapped over off our English dogs into the walkers. They were so hard going. Mm-hmm. Those English dogs put us out of pocket a lot of time. And Bo Kelly, this friend of my dad, finally told me, he said, look, you're going to keep coming over here and hunting. You got to get something that hunts with us instead of us having to hunt with it. And so that's really what got us going into the walker breed and more shaped to what Bo, the type of dogs he was hunting to.
It did, because, when I think of that, these dogs, they start earlier right now.
Yes.
I mean, we've got 8-9-month-old pups that are ready to be in the woods with dogs in a cast in a lot of situations. That's not unheard of. You know, 1-year-old dogs, they're hunting like finished dogs, and it's not uncommon. There's still late starters and there's still late bloomers and things like that. But back then, we wouldn't even start a dog until it was a year old.
That's right.
We didn't even throw it in a truck until it was a year old. I mean, the way we train them now is just completely different. And a lot of guys will even start a pup solely by itself without an old dog or things like that.
Yes.
Did you guys do, and back then communion and fellowship and spending time with other hunters was a big deal too. And a lot of the guys are hunting by themselves right now too. Sure. I mean, times are changing like crazy. But was it an event when you guys went hunting? I mean, was it more of a pleasure to do it then versus now?
It was. We that was one of the things that every time before we went, we always made sure we have a couple of thermoses of coffee, and we'd take a break kind of mid-hunt and go back to the truck, need a cookie or something, and kind of hang out and do that. But nowadays, and I catch myself doing the same thing a lot. I hunt by myself a lot. And, of course, Cole and I together, and we may hunt 4, 5, 6 dogs together, but they're all separate.
Yep.
And we just don't have that problem of them getting together. But it does take a lot of the fellowship and the fun out of it for sure.
But we're to let folks know where we're at. We're at a coon hunt right now in Mississippi that's going to pay $100,000 for first place.
Wow.
And so when you think of how I know how you hunt and I know how I hunt, and everything's geared to win something like this. And so we kind of look at it like a job because it pays money.
It is a job.
And we put our nose to the grindstone and try to get. I catch myself with 10-year-old ignorant duds, still working on him. The one time a year I turn him loose, still working on something, out of just habit.
Quit working on that old dog. Just let him tree coons and have fun.
Well, if he would tree more coons, it would be fun for all of us. But, it's just we've changed the way we look at it, or I have, and I assume you're the same way.
I am, without a doubt. And it is a job. When you talk about trying to hunt 4 or 5 dogs a week, I'm going to be honest, to be successful, they need 40 hours just like you'd put in at work.
Yep.
That's what they need. And it is it's extremely tough because when everyone else is getting off and going home, you're clocking in.
Yeah. And when did you guys switch to competition hunts? When did you first start competition hunting?
Probably the late 70s, 78, 79. We were doing a lot of UKC hunts in. That was primarily all we had. And then did a few PCA hunts in the early 80s. And long about the time I graduated and went to college, I kind of quit competition hunting very much then. Had some other things that I was doing. I was roping a little bit, riding some bareback horses, and just kind of got away. Always kept a coon dog, but didn't competition hunt as much back then.
What do you remember your first cast?
I do. As a matter of fact, it was with John McDonald out of Alba, Texas, one of the most famous black and tan men ever. Guy Manning hunting the old Rachel female.
Yeah.
And Herman husband hunting a female named Lou.
How'd it go?
They wore me out. Taught me a lot, though. I promise you, taught me a lot.
Well, I want to talk about that because how long was it before you seen some success? I mean,
Well, I'm going to tell you, it was quite a while. And I hunted a different dog then. The dog that I first started having a little bit of success with was an English dog, a one-eyed English dog that came from Ray Desmuke's. And I did really, really well with him. And he got up, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and my dad wanted me to start hunting something of ours. Mm-hmm. And I think I went about 10 casts in a row and never won anything, and she's probably one of the best dogs in the country. Yep. My dad, every time he'd come in, he'd ask, and he'd just look at me and shake his head. I told him I didn't do any good. But, whenever that streak broke, it got really good. Yeah. We got on a big roll together.
You talked about Guy and them boys in your first cast wearing you out. Man, I got all kinds of $30 and $50 lessons. And $10 at a UKC hunt. And
yes,
I'm coming up with the Jackie Coomers and the Kurt Ahrings and the guys that were above me, and I was forever getting any cast wins and stringing them up in a row. I may have been, we UKC hunted then too,
Yes.
And people don't understand. They look at the success a guy like you has right now, and they don't understand the lumps that you took to get to that point. And when they're not having success, they think it's something other than just, you keeping your nose to the grindstone and working hard to get to the point you're at.
I finally learned how.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes some learning, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It really, really does.
Not many people, and I tell this to the youth, not many people are coming out the gate winning.
No.
And these kids, man, today, they got it made.
Oh, my gosh. All this modern technology and everything. Mm-hmm. I had a compass, and I will never forget when I got my first Timothy Ball coon squaller and my first sunburst light, man, I thought that I was the stuff.
Yeah, and you put them on at 4 o'clock,
yes,
getting ready for that hunt, had your boots on
and everything.
Yeah,
you bet.
Get rolled out of bed with them. Got to hunt tonight.
That's right.
So you started hunting in the competition hunts. You say you had some success. When did you guys switch over to doing a lot of PKC hunting? When did it come into the country?
Probably my dad did quite a bit in the around 82, 83 to 87 probably. And then he bought a squirrel dog registry and started doing a little more squirrel hunting than coon hunting. And but I probably took a break until, I don't know, the early 2000s. I just did some other things, but probably the early 2000s I got on the roll and started hunting again.
When did you start competing at major events and things like that?
Probably about 12 or 13 years ago.
Yeah. I say it wasn't. I was about the same. I come in, we hunted. I always hunted. I've been hunting since I was 5 years old. But it was, probably 10 years ago. The year before I got Duds, who seems like he's 100 now, but I guess...
Looks it.
Yeah, he does. As well as I do, he's looked it since he was 5.
That's right.
But what changes have you seen just in this part of the sport as far as the dogs? And I'm talking just purely PKC, that's... You hunt some UKC too, and I do too, as much as I can, but we're going to keep it... We're at the Jarvis Umphers Memorial hunt, so we're going to keep it on the PKC side. Sure. What changes have you seen just over the last decade plus?
Well, the way that these rules are structured now, and not just the rules, but the time limits on things, it really dictates what type of dog we're going to hunt if we want to be successful. All of us are wanting that deep and lonely type of dog now. Live by the sword, die by the sword. These dogs that get open quick and they move around good and keep things open in tree coons, man, they're hard to beat.
Yeah. They are hard to beat. And we talked about independence earlier. Is that something that you guys, and I've drawn you, I've hunted with you and against you and all this stuff. I know what kind of dog you're packing, but to talk to the other people about it, are your dogs always alone? Or are they going to, me and Jason Doherty talked, on the podcast that aired just this morning about, I don't care if a dog covers out of the truck, but after that, let's get spread out and let's tree coons by ourselves and stuff.
Well, I really think that coon right out of the truck is important. You need to have the front end part of that. I don't mind mine doing that. Something hot, but after that, they've got to go. They've got to be over by themselves. And there again too, when you put 4 intense type dogs on one tree together, there's going to be some issues. But it's not that a dog is necessarily mean. People are the same way. You put 4 of us in a little small room together, sooner or later one of us is going to get grouchy.
Yeah, and we're all hungry and drop a donut in the middle of it.
That's right. See what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've hunted all these years, and you've seen these dogs evolve into what they are today. What are you looking for? Like right now, say Joe Manning and Cole McVeigh, they're going to travel somewhere, and they're going to look at this guy that's got this 10, 11-month-old pup, and you're wanting to buy it, and you're wanting to compete with it. What are you looking for?
The number one thing is probably heart. A dog has absolutely got to have it to have any consistency at all, because we're going to test that. It's going to be a lot of long nights and some not so pleasurable time, but trainability. Like a dog that can be able to take correction and not carry his feelings on his shoulder and move ahead. And, of course, we all like that natural independence because it makes it easier for us.
Mm-hmm. It does make it easier. And I assume you're the same way. I don't want, and I can't remember who I was talking to. It was last night, I believe. I was hunting with Mr. Aaron Crow. And I told him that dead loners, born dead loners are just weird. They're strange dogs. They're different dogs, and I've had a few of them, and they're kind of hard to keep right long term, because it's impossible for a dog that's barking its full head off to stay alone all the time.
That's right.
You're going to
draw dogs.
Something's going to come to it.
Yes.
And them dogs, when they don't want to be around dogs naturally, and we've been breeding them that way for a long time, it seems like I have a hard time keeping a dog like that winning consistently as far as long term. And so you mentioned trainability earlier, and I like a dog that has natural independent tendencies. They're focused on tree and coons no matter what's going on around them, but they're not weirded out by dogs being around them or anything like that. And I think that's kind of the way we want to learn or want to go towards. And I assume, you're hunting dogs that are probably about like that.
They are. A lot of times I'll think that we'll create that weirdness in them, wanting them to beat alone so much. It just that intense pounding on a lot of times, I think, will bring that out in them.
What tips would you give to somebody who's got a young dog that they think that they may be able to compete with, and, long term? They want to keep the dog, and I try to tell, and I'm just as guilty of it as anybody, man. I burn through dogs like crazy. I burn through them I burn them out as fast as I'll get a year out of them, and I'll be looking for another one. And I always try to tell them guys, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right.
And we talked about Kurt just a little bit ago, and I will give Kurt one thing. He's really good about keeping dogs winning for a long time.
He is?
Yeah. And I think it's because he's not as hard on a dog as I am, or Jed is, or some of these other guys that are hunting. And I think that, his dogs are less focused on what he's worried about and more focused on what they should be doing or what they want to do,
So I'll tell you one thing that I've learned in the last few years. I've learned that there is not a need to hunt one 8 hours a night, 30 nights in a row. I want to keep that dog happy. I want to keep him feeling good about his job. And one thing that I really would discourage someone that was wanting to get in and had a young pup is don't burn them up in these hunts. That will spoil one. It will bring out some tendencies in one that you'll never be able to correct. Hence is one reason that having a couple of dogs really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good advice. And especially you see these guys that are picking up older dogs, 6, 7, 8-year-old dogs, and then they go to hunting them 30 nights. Well, that dog knows what he's doing.
Sure, that's right.
That dog needs to be having fun or he ain't going to work.
Exactly.
That's just the way it is. But you talked about having multiple dogs. One thing I do want to get into, and we had touched on this earlier, is how PKC's changed and stuff like that. And we went through some rule changes here recently. There's no leash lock.
Oh man!
And as a guy that judges a lot, and I was for the no leash lock rule because I've spent too much. I got a quarter strike dog, and you know what kind of dogs that Jed hunts and that
That's
I
right.
hunt for Jed.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that dog gets turned loose again.
Exactly.
I don't want to
Gotta have it.
I don't want to spend 45 minutes on a leash. But what do you feel with the leash lock rule and a few of the other changes that we've made here in the last year or two, you think it's a positive for the dogs and the handlers or negative?
Well, I'll say this, and of course, our state president, Josh Howard, and I, we had this conversation. I was for leaving things the way that it was, and it's primarily because the way that our country is. Mm-hmm. We're cut up now. We don't have as big of places as what we used to have, and now I've got a man that can go over and score his tree and walk a minute and cut somewhere where I really don't need to be. So I just felt like it was worse for us. Now, after hunting in some of these, it's worse for me. And I kind of feel like that we're making some changes in some of these rules that someone has already dealt with and been through before, and they were set up for a way that was to accommodate the hunter better. So our rule that we've got now, it hurts a dog like us more than it helps us now.
Yeah.
I really feel that.
I think it was and I've heard a bunch of people that this leash lock's terrible. I don't like it. It's stupid not to give a dog a chance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of them changed their mind in the first couple of months that rule was implemented. 7 miles
in my first early round. Yes, sir.
And there isn't very often that I get leash locked. And it's not a common occurrence, and we walk a lot whenever
sure.
there was a leash lock rule.
Absolutely. I mean, you've walked a lot of miles.
But
yes,
I was at the Pro Classic in Texas here just recently there at the Lone Star, and I was hunting scent. Dual Murphy was in the cast with Melvin, and Melvin's treated coon. I have treated coon, and Gracie has treated coon, and everything's treed in. And Melvin gets treed again. And right before I got treed, and could have leash locked Melvin if the rule was still involved, he got to turn Melvin loose. As soon as he turned Melvin loose, you could hear scent. I tree her. Melvin wheels around, bang, gets treed again. I mean, just like that. And so I've got time to get the scent, score her coon, get her turned loose again. Preston Bowles was the judge of that cast. And Gracie is treed again too, and she's 100 miles away. Maybe 110. I mean, this dog is forever away. I know more than cut scent. She goes 200, 300 yards. She gets treed again. And I can go back to scent and wait. Duel's still sitting up there. He hasn't walked to the last 2 trees. He's still sitting up there with Melvin. And Preston is just beside himself.
I'm sure he was.
Oh, yeah. And at that point, because, I'm a non-hunting judge every now and then, too, and it's rough. That is a lot of walking.
It is.
And if that hadn't been the case, we could have scored them dogs out of order. We could have went 2 scent, 2 Melvin, and Gracie's back all the way on the other side of the truck. It wouldn't have been. I mean, it probably cost him 2 miles.
I'm certain.
At the end of the cast.
Yes.
So there's wins and there's losses, but don't get me wrong. At that point, when I would have been leash locked, and I've got a chance to turn that dog loose for $8,000, I'm like, boy, I'm glad they changed that rule.
Right.
But if I'm judging that cast, I'd have been like, this bleeping stupid rule. I can't believe I ever voted for this.
That's right. Well, it's so hard to get judges now, you know, and I know that we've lost a few that it was tough to lose because of this. So I don't know. It's something that we definitely need to get the board together and visit about.
I wonder if one thing that we couldn't do is implement a leash lock for the senior casts and the youth casts. At least get because there's senior casts at the Lone Star, there's senior casts at the World Hunt and stuff, and some of these older gentlemen that have been doing this for so long, they don't need to walk to every tree, especially in a cast with a hunting judge.
That's right.
At least with a non-hunting judge, you can just go sit with your dog and wait for that judge to get there. And he's the only one that's miserable.
Yes, that's right.
But with the hunting judge, everybody's making that trip.
Yes,
at least 3 of the 4 cast members are making that trip.
That's right. Better 1 than 4, huh?
Yes, exactly. And so maybe that's something to consider. Just a thought that just absolutely crossed my mind. But
sure.
When you and Cole, how long you and Cole been partners on dogs now?
A little over a year.
And when that happened, that was like you guys teamed up and you had really pretty immediate success.
We did.
And what dogs did you guys partner up with first?
Pretty well everything.
Yeah. You had Hank.
Yes, sir.
The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about Old Magic.
Old Magic. Gosh, man, I'll tell you what, I'd love to turn him loose again.
Yeah, I like that dog. I tell you what, I was there the night that he made Platinum Champion. And that dog got in the Final Four that night. And remember, you was mad. You never dreamed he'd get in.
I didn't. I really didn't.
Tell us about that cast, Joe. I want to hear about, because first of all, let's tell us about Magic. How long did you have Magic? Give me the backstory on that dog.
So I got Magic when he was 17 months old, and already a little coon treer. But man, I'll tell you, I had him. He was nearly 14 when he died, and I put him down a year ago last month. Man, he was one of those once in a lifetimes. Cut him loose. He was absolutely going to do whatever it took to tree a coon as fast as he could.
Was he like that, early? Did he start early?
No, he really didn't. I'm going to tell you, he started when he was about 9 or 10 months old, treated his first coon, and then from that point on, just got better and better and better and better. He was the youngest UKC dual grand ever. That's since then been surpassed. But treat any type of coon. Work a bad track up. If coons weren't moving, he'd tree a layup. Had a lot of ability. If you put him in a coon treeing contest, he could handle that too.
How many casts do you think Magic won?
I don't know. I thought, and while you brought that up, I'm going to go talk to RD here in a little bit, and I'm going to get him to look it up at some point for me. I got a stack of wind slips to choke a horse, though.
Yeah, because people don't understand now. I made Reign Platinum Champion last year, and it wasn't that many casts. The dogs are making Gold Champion in one hunt. Tonight, you can bring a dog in here that's never been in a cast, and all of a sudden it's in the top 50.
Boom. That's right.
It wins a few casts here tonight, and it's in the top 20, 30, 40 dogs ever.
Back then, the biggest hunts that we had were our $1,000 pro showcase, and that's all he did. So he kind of did it the hard way. Man, them $30 hunts, my gosh, we won a ton of them.
Yeah, and you talk about that showcase. That was kind of the first big entry hunt down at the Lone Star, and I remember when I first started going down there with Jed 8 or 9 years ago. And I told him, I said, you pay, because I didn't know anything about the showcase.
Right.
I'm green as a gourd. Duds is a young dog. I'm just going to go down there. I had $1 then, too. I'm just going to go down there and have some fun. I'd never hunted in Texas. And Jed goes, well, Saturday night I hunt the showcase. I said, what's that? He goes, well, it's a $1,000 entry. And he just says it like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I'm
$1,000.
I was mad. I got to pay $55 instead of $50 down here. I said, gee whiz. But, yeah, that was kind of the first, big kind of pro classic style hunt, that they had every year. And you were in it.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of wish it was still the same deal. It was just, it had so much prestige.
It really did. It really did. It was a lot of fun. And drew good numbers, man, from the get-go. And then when we stepped out even with that one and had a second one, they just filled up so fast.
Yeah, everybody loved them. I mean, it was the best spots. It was the best guides. It was the best judges, and it was the best dogs. And man, I'll tell you what, there were some good ones in
Yes, there were.
In the early days of that $1,000 pro showcase, there were some good dogs in there. That was tough to win.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you and Cole, you partner up. You guys got some dogs. You go together on everything. And I want to talk about what you're hunting here now. First of all, we're going to get to the world hunt and stuff like that, but what are you seeing out of Goose and Dom and these dogs that you guys are packing around now that you like so much?
Man, I'm going to tell you, they have so much ability. They move around absolutely the very best. Both those dogs, and of course, they're man, to their own respect, they're two totally different types of dogs, but man, they've just got a lot of desire and a lot of heart. And dogs that you hunt night in and night out that give you 110 every time you crack that snap, that's what we've got to have. And they do that.
Which one's better, Joe? Come on.
Man, I can't tell you that. I like them both.
It's like picking
like
between your
both.
son and your daughter.
It is. It really is. But I do. I like them both. They're both two different style of hounds.
How so?
Dom is he moves so fast. That dog has a knack for going to find where a coon's at. It's amazing how he can do it and how quick he can do it. Goose is looking more for our style of coon. But when they're not down, he'll pick his head up and tree those that that have been asleep for a while.
Yeah. Does Dom he kind of need a track more than Goose does?
No.
Or?
You know, as he's getting older and maturing more, he needs it less and less.
Yeah. I've seen dogs like that have that ability in them, but they want to move so fast that they don't worry about those coons.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You know, you see them. Venus is a good. I've seen Venus put her nose to the ground and grab a coon up and tree it. I've seen her in the tree lay.
Me too. Me too.
She don't do it very often.
Right.
But she gets it more and more. It seems like every year as she gets some age onto her, you know, and she's learning that it's not. She don't have to be 8 miles away.
That's right.
To tree coon. I hope Spice Girl picks it up one of these days.
Oh my gosh! Well, that'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Oh, I'll tell you what, she is. Oh, she's a hard goer.
I'll tell you what, Spice got her coons though.
Yeah, she will have them.
Do that have their coons?
Yes, they sure do.
Do you think with the leash lock coming up, a dog like Spice and like Venus can do and stuff are going to be less prevalent? You know, in years to come.
Well, yes, maybe in years to come. Yes. Yeah. I do.
I don't see Venus or Spice, you know, all of a sudden quitting winning just because there's no leash lock.
No, that's right.
I mean, them dogs are going to win no matter where you take them, what they do.
Yes.
But do you think we're going to try to, because what I've noticed is we're really good at getting dogs to fit whatever rules we're trying to win with.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
That's part of our job.
And I think, you know, with no leash lock, these dogs that kind of hunt closer and will work an older track and try to keep tree coons as they come to them more often, or may be more prevalent in years to come.
Yes, I agree.
So you guys started hunting and you started campaigning Dom. And I think Dom, you kind of broke him out before you did Goose.
We did. You know, of course, he's older. You know, he's got 18 months on Goose.
Yeah.
But he's really just in the last 6 or 7 months matured a lot.
Yeah.
Just got a lot of confidence in him.
And Goose came in late, frankly, to be honest, up until the World Hunt. I mean, I'd seen you were hunting Goose in some hunts here and there, but you guys weren't getting crazy with him or nothing like that. And then he just goes through that World Hunt and cuts through it like a hot knife through butter. I mean, just one of the more impressive runs we've seen at the World Hunt. So just tell me about it. We'll get to the final cast, but I mean, as far as just getting the dog ready and getting him at the World Hunt, because it's a different world in Salem, Illinois than it is Texas. No Especially doubt. That time of year. You guys are still pretty warm down there. You know, you're trying to get dogs ready for a hunt in the north. How'd it go? How'd you guys go about it?
So, up to that point, both dogs had just been looking fantastic. But we tried to keep them happy. Mm-hmm. We didn't burn them out. That's one thing that both of us have really consciously made the decision not to just pound on them. We wanted them pretty fresh. And feeling good, and that was one of the main things. We kept both those dogs just very, very fresh, and but had been looking great up to that point. Very good.
Did you have kind of, you know, you said they were both looking good. Did you have kind of a feeling that Goose may do a little better than Dom, or Dom may do a little better than Goose coming in?
No, not really. Yeah. I would say strictly because of his age, we felt like Dom was probably our best chance to get in. We did. And I kept him from getting in. I mean, it's totally my fault.
Yeah. Well, that's happened to all of us, you know, just as well as I do, Joe. But we look at this year's World Hunt, and I talked to you about this when we was down at the Lone Star. It was tough. Mm-hmm. I told Jed when we left, I said, Jed, this is the best chance. And I'm specifically talking about rain because that's the one I was handling and I'd been hunting.
Had a great year with it.
Yeah. I mean, we'd been winning, and she was sharper going into the World Hunt than I had ever seen her. I mean, this dog was as right, and I couldn't win a cast. I couldn't buy a cast. I couldn't do nothing. And Scent ended up, which Scent was looking good going into it too, and Scent ended up making a pretty good run, but it was tough out there.
Yes, it was.
I drew good dogs every night.
Me too.
I mean, they were it was one of the toughest World Hunt. It was probably the toughest World Hunt I'd ever attended. Mm-hmm. And so to see what you guys did out there was even that much more impressive. But what happened, first of all, I want to tell you I wanted you to tell us how you screwed Dom out of getting in first.
Well, so I relive this every couple of days, really kick myself for it. We cut loose, got the dog struck, and had a female that sounded a little bit like him locating. Boy, and she rolled up in there, and I booked him in a hurry. Oh, he's about 100 yards down. So I took me 100 minus right there, and he treated another coon right there. and ended up treeing another coon in the cast, but I still got beat. My old buddy Bill Stokes got me with more money by a quarter.
Yeah.
Hate to take those. I hate it for the dog. You know?
I do too.
That's my big deal. But I kick myself about that. But we're going to redeem ourselves this year.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. I know Chuck Wells, if he's listening to this, I don't know if he is or not, but he's got a really good dog out of Big Money. It's either out of Big Money or Little Money. I can't remember. But the year before, when we got rain in the top 27, 6 or something like that, we made a pretty good run. And I'm in the early round on Thursday night. We didn't get her until Thursday. And we'd lost a couple late rounds, and we just caught some bad breaks and stuff. And we cut loose, and he's got a dog sounds a lot like Rain. I mean, a lot like Rain. And these are all pretty quiet dogs. We're 2 minutes, 3 minutes into this cast, and nothing's ever said a word. And I'm thinking, come on, Rain, open your eyes. If I'm ever going to get a chance to get struck for 100, this would be it, you know. And great big ball mouth dog opens in there right where I know Rain's at, and I strike her. And Chuck looks at me, don't say anything, says, Rain for 100. This dog barks again. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of different. Then it barks again, and I'm like, uh-oh. That ain't Rain. Chuck never says anything. He strikes for 75. Now, if Chuck had turned around and looked at me and said, hey, that's me, that's all me, you're minus 100, you got it. Sure. It's a bad break or nothing. Well, he don't say nothing. This goes on. I tree 2 coons. He trees 2 coons. I beat him by a quarter. And so when we're talking about breaks and handler moves and things like that, a good handler is great, but every now and then it's just nice to get lucky.
It is.
And I got lucky. I mean, his dog done everything it should do to win, and so did mine. But him not pumping me out of the truck, trying to be a nice guy, because he knew. I seen him look at me, and he knew. Right. And I don't know if he thought I would complain or nothing, or Chuck didn't know me well or what. But I'd have ate my minus if he'd have gave it to me.
Sure.
And here we are. We get her in late. She wins Friday early. She's hunting Friday late, and, we get paid a little bit, and he goes home.
Right.
I mean, it's a fine line out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, talking back to your world hunt, you guys didn't get Dom in.
No.
Did you hunt him every night?
No. We hunted him 2 nights, and then Cole had an obligation, had to get back.
Right. And so, you get Goose in on what night?
Monday, first night.
That's right. And what did Goose do early and late?
He treated a coon early. Of course, we had those storms come in.
Yeah.
Had a lot of rain. Got a coon treat early for 75 and 100, and that was all it took.
Yeah.
Early round. Late round, of course, I had Mark and the Oreo. Oreo had some good success this year, and a nice dog. And it really wasn't looking good for me that round. I'd treat a coon, and it kind of come down to the wire. Oreo's been leading the cast the whole way, and she's treated over behind the house. So Kenny Tresh had sent Micah to go handle Oreo, and we went back and scored the Lucille female. And as we were going to Lucille, Goose gets treated again. So if Lucille's got a coon, I can't even beat her. But I went ahead and treated Goose, go to Lucille, she's got a den. And so Kenny had sent me on to go handle Goose. I went and got him handled. He gets there, find Goose's coon, puts me in the lead. So we still had to go score Oreo. Get over an Oreo, of course, tree behind that house. Man, a big acorn tree.
Yeah.
Never found one. Just
no kid.
Took a,
That'll
that's
happen
one of the
often
breaks.
too.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
late round, you got to count on every dog having a coon.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. So we got the rest all week, and I think that really helped him.
Do you? Because I was wondering, I've seen dogs that get in. Wiz is a fine example, getting in the second and super stakes and didn't get in. Hunted the late rounds and got in Thursday night late,
Right.
Scent and Rain the last 2 years were the same situation. We didn't get them in until Thursday, and they ended up advancing, quite a ways. But I wonder, there's a fine line between stale and rested.
No doubt.
And there's a fine line between wore out and ready to go. So, but you thought that the rest was good for you?
I really do. Of course, I thought about a few nights taking him and just making a drop with him, but man, he just he likes treeing coons.
Yeah,
he really does. And so we sat on him and let him pester me in the room all week.
Yeah. How'd your Friday night cast go?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, that's where I got my break.
Yeah.
I draw Orange.
That's a good dog.
Man, a very good dog.
That's a good dog.
And Casey's my buddy. You know, I like him a whole lot. So storming, I mean, it was coming down pretty bad. We get out there and we get cut loose, and man, I get struck for 100 under the minute. I'm trailing left-handed. All the dogs get struck, and they're falling in the country. And just a few minutes, I come treed. Go in, I've got a coon. Gives me 200 off the bat. And we went and scored the English dog of Matlock's, and he had a circle tree. And we fall in to go score Orange, and he's in a brush pile. Get him out of that brush pile. Don't find a coon there, but get him out of that brush pile, get him sent. And the gypsy female was treed. Go with her, and she's on a persimmon. And get her pulled off of there. And I guess that time Orange had got struck again, kind of beaten through there, and Orange comes treed. Go in, and he's got a coon. We get pulled off there and have to walk back to where we last heard the English dog at. Of course, I'm through the country, the other side of where we turned loose at. And we get back over there close, and we have 25 seconds left, and Orange comes treed. Rain had stopped, cleared off, got good and still, and I mean, I don't know, it's well over a mile. And comes treed, and I thought, man, there it is.
Yeah.
Done.
I bet Casey was thinking the same thing, too.
I know he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what type of dog he hunts, and so do I. I mean, everyone does.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we get over there, Orange is treed in a cut cornfield right on the edge. And I thought, this won't be long. I put that thermal up there, find the coon just like that. Tell the judge, tell Casey. We never made that coon look during the whole time.
Really?
Never could see his body.
Yeah.
But never made him look.
I bet Casey was sick.
He was sick, and I mean, I was sick for him.
Yeah.
I really was. The dog treed 2 coons. He deserved to win it, in my opinion. But rules are the rules.
Right. That's right. So you went on to, that was early round Friday night?
Yes, sir.
And then you went on the late round Friday night. Who did you draw on that?
I drew Sale.
Yeah.
I had Colton Ingram in deep.
Yep.
And had Jeremy Hooch and Cracker.
How'd that cast go?
Man, it went good. We treated a lot of coons. Had a good time. Actually, we were at the place that we hunted the finals at. So I get struck for a quarter. I think Sale strikes for 100, Cracker for 75, Deep for 50. I get struck for a quarter. Deep gets treed first. We're going to him. And then Sale gets treed right beside us. And mine's trailing right in there around where Deep is. Right before we get to Deep, mine comes treed in there. Just, I didn't know that he didn't go cover.
Yeah.
But we'll get in there. Of course, I have to wait my time there, but they're 15 foot apart on trees that don't touch. Each one of them had a coon. So Cracker had gotten treed during that time. Of course, that was before the no leash lock rule came into effect, so we were leading back to Sale. Well, Sale had left and took a minus, so we got the cut. Went to score Cracker, and Cracker had a persimmon. And we got him pulled off and cut, and Goose gets treed again. Gives me another coon. Then Cracker gets treed again and has a coon. Sale's treed across the way. We go score him. He's got a big circle tree. So Sean withdraws at that time, and I'm treed again. Don't want to.
Yeah.
And ended up not having to. But had another coon that I needed. I mean, of course, going to Saturday, I draw one of the best. Rain and I really felt like out of the dogs there, that was the one I wanted to stay away from. And for both accounts, the dog and the handler both, you know, been there before, and of course, you know, they're going to hunt some quality dogs.
Yep.
And we cut our dogs loose, and I get struck for 100, and he strikes for 75, and they piddle around there and let the 6 catch them.
No kidding.
Yes. I mean, I would have never imagined it. Those two dogs especially.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after the 6 catches, I get struck a little deeper, back for 100, and he works in there and gets treed. Rain was struck for 75, and on our way there, he really didn't want to tree her, but he said he didn't think she was going anywhere, but trees her. We go in, I got a coon. And I get recut. We go to Rain. We look there, finally find our coon. And I'm treed across the way. And I figure where he's at, he went across a cut cornfield. I figure he's got a coon. So we cut Rain, and then I tree. Rain walked with us the whole way.
Really?
What I should have done is waited just a little bit. She's wore out. I mean, she had a tough week, and boy, she was just walking around gimpy. And anyway, get in, and I've got a coon on. Right as we get to him, she falls treed right-handed, and I said, well, she's treed another one right here. She had a den, and anyway, so what happened that I didn't want to happen, I didn't want that strike open back up, and anyway, but it got opened back up.
Everybody else did, didn't they?
Yes. Oh, yes, you can bet on that. So anyway, and we recut, and Rain gets struck for 100, and I get struck for 75. Rain just falls tree. And I thought, well, I better get something going, Go in, got a big den again, and get pulled off there, and I think we have like 17 minutes left, and mine's in a cornfield.
Yeah.
Doing his best, but he's wallering around in the cornfield.
The people talk about all them cornfield races and all that's great. And coming from corn country, we hate cornfields.
Oh, gosh.
I hate them.
It's terrible.
I don't want to beat around in no cornfield and try to push no coon out of it.
Nor do I want to walk in them either.
Right.
Until they get cut. Now, once they get cut, then I'm good with it. But we get Rain cut back loose. She gets struck back in for a quarter and gets treed. And we get in, and she's got a coon. But we're like 2 minutes before the hunt's up, and that's how it ended up going. I mean, of course, we were both tied with 3 1/4, but I didn't want tiebreaker. But man, I'm gonna tell you one thing I do want to say: we had great cast all week.
Yep, I did too that week.
Man, I hunted with good dogs. The sportsmanship was great. Hunting was good everywhere I went.
Tell me about the finals. That's the.
Oh man,
what are you feeling going into the finals? Because and don't get me wrong, I'm not a professional handler or anything like that. I win a little bit here and there, and I get lucky. But everybody, I don't care if you're a 10-year-old kid or a 60-year-old man that's never been. Everybody wants to win the PKC World Hunt. This hunt's going to be great.
Sure,
for $100,000 is great.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody wants that too. But if I had my choice, believe it or not, I'd want to win the PKC World Hunt before I would something like this.
Right. And talking about that for a minute, of course, I was a little bit worried about the prestige going away some, when you have a hunt of this magnitude. But I feel the same way. Of course, the money would be great, but I would rather win the PKC World.
What are you feeling going into that cast? Are you nervous? Do you feel pretty good? Or?
I kind of went out on a limb, but I told Cole earlier that if we got to that final cast, we'd win it. Yeah. I just felt that good about it. And, of course, I don't really get nervous, but how does a man not be nervous in that situation? So there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerve. Didn't want to make the wrong move. Needed to make the right one. So, but everything just worked out so good. It just couldn't have been better.
I bet you're the only person for the last hour of the PKC World Hunt that was on cruise control.
Yes, man, that was nice.
I bet that was a wonderful feeling.
Oh gosh! So, while we were sitting around waiting on weed to get in, I knew that where we were going.
Yeah.
And that was the first day that it had gotten cold, and I felt like that was going to play into my hand. I felt like those coons would be sitting up.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Tell me about the final cast.
So we get the dogs cut. We get struck for 100. I take 75. And Goose is not on the ground just 2 or 3 minutes. Comes treed. I get him treed. We're walking to him, and Jack gets struck in. So we get in, I get goose handled. They find the coon immediately. I get him out and get him cut, and Casey trees Jack just right close to where Goose was. So I cut back in toward where Marv was, and Casey had treed Jack. We were going in to score that tree, and he just moved over. Mm-hmm. Just moved over a tree. So Brad minused him. We stepped back out. I get goose struck during that time. And Casey retrees. Our time's kind of getting down a little bit on his tree, and we and I are treed at that time. We go in there and score Casey. Got a coon. Pull out of there, weed trees, and while we were walking Casey's minute, I treed. And get in there, and we're about, 60, 70 yards apart. Each one of us got a coon.
Did you consider waiting until Casey turned loose to tree? I
really did.
Yeah, keep the strike from opening back up.
I did, and that kind of went over in my mind quite a bit, but I was struck good in the beginning, and I just felt good about it. So we pull off of that, walk our minute, get cut, and it's quiet for, 5 or 6 minutes. We're just kind of talking there and BSing, and Goose gets struck. And it's not, a minute till he rolls up. I didn't have any pressure on me. I let him settle. Yeah. I let him run the stationary on me for about 3 minutes, and then got him treed. And we're walking in there, and Jack gets struck. And get in there and get him handled. Got another coon. At that point, something bad would have to happen, but we know in those situations that it can.
It can, but you're feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling really good. Who wouldn't feel good, right. But anyway, we pull him off of there and get him recut, and Jack's treed. And Goose goes in there, and he kind of trails around him a little bit, but he goes in there and backs him. After the 5, I'd struck, so my strike was deleted, but he had a circle tree, and we walked there. I guess we had about 17 or 18 minutes left, and cut back into Z, and as soon as we cut, Jack falls treed in front of us, and ends up having a coon. We get him scored and pulled off, and I got struck back in and got him cut in, but I was treed. I'd been treed for a couple of minutes, and Brad wanted to walk a little bit closer to him, and I guess we walked, 400 or 500 yards, and he run the stationary. I didn't let him run it down. I just went on and treated him. At that point, I could have taken it both ways and still been fine with them treeing coons. And we go in there, and that little sucker has another one.
I know I watched the play-by-play, and of course, like all the great internet coon hunters, I'm on the couch while everybody else is hunting at the final. But I'm over there watching the play-by-play, and it was just, what these dogs go through, and you mentioned heart, and what these dogs go through out there through the week, and they're traveling. What is it, a 14, 15-hour trip from your house?
It is.
They're forever away. They're around strange dogs, strange people, strange places.
Yep.
They're getting turned loose with smells that they're not used to and things that they're not used to. And
it's hard on them.
We've seen how many final casts where the dogs look common. Mm-hmm. But people don't understand how hard it was for them dogs to get to that final cast,
That's right.
We're not just turning them loose behind the house, where they're used to treeing coons and letting them do work. So to see Goose go through that cast like he did and tree all those coons was even more impressive to the people that have done it and been around it, than I think from people looking from the outside.
Right. Well, and of course, I told several other people this. That's how a championship is supposed to be. Not just coon hunting, but anything that you do. Yep. That's how it's supposed to be dominant. You're supposed to have one that's far superior.
Yep.
We don't want to get out-handled, in any way. We want the best dog to win.
Yeah, and it definitely happened last year with you.
I'll tell you what, it was a blessing. It really was.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you sitting down with me. Congratulations on all your success this year, and you guys you've been rolling coming into this hunt too. So I'm happy for you guys. You and Cole are good friends of mine, so I can't be more happy for for you. Thanks for sitting down with me. Thanks for sharing your experience in the world hunting and then everything else too. And good luck tonight.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. This is Josh Michaelis with the Houndsmen XP Podcast Network, and this is The Truth. Thanks for listening.
Hey, I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Joe Manning. Josh does a great job of bringing the biggest names in our sports, and how much bigger can you get than a PKC World Champion. Great job, Josh. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Before we wrap this up, I wanted to let you all in on a product that you should be using if you are looking for that edge in the late rounds. If you're looking to enhance your dog's performance in these competition hunts. Hauling dogs up and down the road is hard on them. It's hard to keep dogs hydrated. Our friends at Dogs Are Treed has a solution for you. Go to dogsaretreed.com and find the product Dogs Are Hydrated. It's scientifically based. It is being proven in the sled dog world to enhance performance, and big game hunters have been using it with awesome results. Check out Dogs Are Treed at dogsaretreed.com. They've got premium leashes, tie-outs, all the things that you need to keep your hound rolling. Use the product code HXP 20% off at checkout, and you'll get 20% off of your entire order. That's courtesy of Houndsman XP, because we appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in. See you next week on The Truth.